Have you ever seen two enemies suddenly act like old friends, shaking hands, smiling for cameras, while the world watches in disbelief? That's exactly what's unfolding between India and China right now, and the most unexpected twist? It's not peace talks or goodwill that's bringing them closer, it's Donald Trump. Let's rewind. Just a few years ago, Indian and Chinese troops clashed at the border in a deadly confrontation. Anti-China sentiment erupted across India. Apps were banned, protests flooded the streets. India slapped tariffs, tightened the screws on Chinese imports, and tried to wean itself off Beijing's supply chains. The message was clear: no more business as usual. So how did we go from border standoffs to possible handshakes and business deals? Well, the answer lies across the Pacific. In Washington, D.C., Donald Trump, in his second coming on the political stage, has fired a shot that's rattling global trade. He announced massive tariffs on Indian goods, some as high as 50%. The reason? He claims India is helping fund Russia's war by buying cheap oil. Now pause. That's a serious accusation. But here's the twist. If Trump's concern is oil money fueling war, why not punish China, who buys even more Russian oil? Or the EU, who buys Russia's gas and still claims moral high ground? But logic isn't always a priority in politics. What's clear is this: India is getting squeezed, and the agricultural sector seems to be Trump's real target. See, India's farming economy is massive, worth nearly Rs 100 trillion. It employs over 150 million people, and American agro-businesses are drooling at the prospect of getting access. But opening our doors could mean doom for Indian farmers. Why? Because US farms are gigantic. They're highly mechanized, subsidized, and armed with cheap credit. If their products hit our markets, Indian prices could crash overnight. Milk, for instance, could fall from Rs 50 to Rs 32 per liter. For consumers, that sounds like a deal. But for farmers who barely survive on razor-thin margins, that's a death sentence. So India faces a brutal choice: open up and risk a farming collapse, or stay protectionist and face the wrath of American tariffs. And that's when the unthinkable begins to happen. India starts looking toward China. Yes, the same China that built roads on our territory, the same China we blamed for aggression. But geopolitics doesn't run on emotion, it runs on interest. And if China is being hammered by the US and India is being targeted too, the logic of partnership starts to whisper in policymakers' ears. Here's the strategic brilliance. China no longer wants low-cost manufacturing, its wages have soared. Producing t-shirts or toys isn't profitable anymore. Meanwhile, India desperately needs labor-intensive industries to create jobs. What China wants to exit, India is hungry to enter. Take Xiaomi. They design phones in China, but 99% of their devices sold in India are now assembled right here, by Indian workers. Now imagine if this model spreads. BYD does R&D in China, but manufactures EVs in India. Indian workers get jobs. Chinese companies reduce costs. Consumers get cheaper products. Everyone wins. Together, India and China represent 2.8 billion people, a third of humanity, over 900 million middle-class consumers. If they align economically, they could create a parallel system independent of the West. A world where supply chains, markets, and innovation flow through Asia, not the Atlantic. But, hold on. Before we start imagining an India-China utopia, let's be honest. History has a painful memory. Back in the 1950s, India saw China as a brother. Hindi Chini Bye Bye was more than a slogan, it was a dream. We gave them diplomatic support, championed their case at the UN. But in 1962, China betrayed that trust with bullets. Thousands of our soldiers died, our economy collapsed, and that dream, it shattered into silence. Now compare that to our relationship with the US. Yes, it's far from perfect. The tariffs are unfair, their hypocrisy is blatant, but they're a known quantity. We know how the US plays the game, we know their system, their rules, and more importantly, their limits. Our IT giants, 50% of their revenue comes from US clients. Our pharma exports, America buys nearly half. Our startup ecosystem, our digital tools, even our defense systems, all rooted in US soil. So can we ditch the US for China? Not a chance. But can we balance the scales? Can we play smart, pit one against the other, and extract what's best for India? Absolutely. This isn't about choosing sides, it's about playing the great game of geopolitics with eyes wide open. Because if we've learned anything from history, it's this: there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. And if India wants to rise without begging for aid, without bending to pressure, it must master the art of walking the tightrope between Washington and Beijing, without falling. So, as the world watches the dance of giants, India, China, and the US, we must ask ourselves, can India be the swing power of the 21st century? Not a pawn, not a puppet, but a player. The answer? We're already writing it.